Welcome back to another episode of STEM in Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales. And if you are a female founder in tech or even in other parts of science, engineering, technology, and math, struggling to navigate challenges relating to your self-perception, to burnout, to leadership growth, you have arrived at the right place because today we are discussing leading through the lens of challenge, unveiling women's leadership secrets. And my guest today is the amazing and wonderful Carly Pepin. And she's an international speaker and consultant with a specialized focus on leadership and scaling business, utilizing human behavior principles and strategic growth strategies. She shares the message that regardless of one's background, occupation, or origin, every individual encounters personal and professional challenges stemming from their own perceived flaws. Carly highlights the transformative power of reinterpreting these narratives to lead a fulfilling life. Having devoted her life to mastering the intricacies of human behavior, Carly integrates this knowledge with the strategic business processes and systems to empower clients both professionally and personally. Through her guidance, individuals and businesses alike learn to purposefully design their trajectories, moving beyond obligation to genuine fulfillment and achievement. Welcome to the show, Carly. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this. Mhm.
So, yeah, it's always a real journey when we're moving into found startups and being founders and really taking on that mantle of leadership much more than perhaps we have previously in our careers. What challenges did you face as a woman when you were really starting to step into and develop your leadership style? What was your journey that led you to that point, and what were the challenges you brought with you?
Yeah, so I think as a woman, it can sometimes be a little bit different, and it's definitely navigating those dynamics. So for me, since I'm also in the business world, so I work with businesses and business owners and founders and all that fun stuff, and a lot of the executive teams. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky being a woman and sometimes in a male dominated world. So that can be a little bit tricky. And so navigating it in such a way where I don't lose what I love, like I don't lose my femininity, I don't lose that part of myself that I don't want to give up. As soon as I'm not a pantsuit girl, I haven't been. If I am in one, it's probably a little bit avant-garde. I wear a lot of dresses and I love heels, and I didn't want to give all that up just to sort of fit in with this mold. So it was like, how do I embody that personal empowerment with myself? Like, how do I become that person that can both just dress the way I want, but also be empowered and confident and be at their level and have them have that
Yeah,
certainty.
command
And
that
then
peer-to-peer kind of respect. Yeah.
definitely, yeah. And even just, like physical beauty wise, like it is very important to me to try to maintain as well as I can because I'm aging and I've been told sometimes that I'm very appreciative when I get told that, obviously, that I'm far younger than I look. And that could also be a big issue where, I'm 42 years old and I'm quite established in my business and my practice. But the other day, someone told me I was 22 and I was like, can I hug you? But
That's the
simultaneously,
best. Thank you so much. I got a
yeah.
lot of that when I was coming up in my career too. They take a decade or two off my age
Yeah.
regularly,
And
for
you're like,
good
I
or
love you
ill.
so much. And then you're also like, and simultaneously, it can be quite challenging because people look at you and they're like, well, you're young and this and that. And it's hard. You have to navigate all these different dynamics that you have to think about. And it is what it is. I either give it up and I walk away from it, or I had to figure it out. So a lot of it was the internal development, personal development, growth, and having that certainty, that confidence, knowing that I am their peers and being able to show up that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a lot of inner work. Yeah.
So, how did you start to get your arms
Mm.
around that inner work? A lot of times, I know, having done some of that work myself, we start from this place of not even thinking we have influence over these random thoughts that seem to come into our mind and these stories that we tell ourselves. How did you start to delve into that yourself?
Yeah, so I could feel the gaps, right? I could feel the gaps inside, and it's the brain noise, it's the self-doubt that kind of comes in, and it's the language that we're using. But it's really starting to pay attention to the specificities of the language. So if I'm spending time with a certain individual and I'm specifically doubting myself, it'll be like specific. It's gonna be so specific to you. It's gonna be so specific to what you're doubting in yourself. And the key is not working on it in a broad, vague sort of way. Like we don't want the generalities generalities, but we want the specificities. So pay attention to the inner voice almost like it's a feedback mechanism, not something that we want to get rid of, not something that we hate or we're despising. Like it's actually just feedback. And when you listen to that inner voice and you start to hear the feedback of what it's actually truly giving you, those specificities, that's where you don't have your confidence. That's where you don't have your certainty. Sometimes genuinely, like I'll look at things and I'm like, oh, well, I've actually never done that before. So I don't even know if I'm like good or bad at that. Like, I don't
Yeah,
even know. I
exactly.
think I'm gonna get some books and I'll see if it's a course. I'm gonna see if I even want this, right? There's some things where I thought, I don't even know if I actually want this. And then I'll read a book or something and maybe I love it and do a deep dive, or I'll go in and I'll read the book and I'll be like, no, this actually isn't for me. If I'm gonna do this in a company, I'm gonna bring in an expert and I might have an expert on the side that I'm like, oh, this is where I refer you to this person, right? So sometimes it's literally as simple as that. So that voice is just telling you you don't have enough data. Yeah, which
Yeah,
is fun.
exactly. And you can make the decision if you need to be the one that has the data or if you need to hire someone who has the
Yeah,
data.
not always us, which is great.
Exactly, exactly. It's things we couldn't get away with in school, right? Don't look at the other person's paper. Well, no, we can hire the other person's paper.
Yeah, now you get to pay them and it's totally allowed and it's not called cheating, it's called delegation and proper business management.
Exactly. It's called strategy.
Yeah, so that
I
was
love
like,
that.
I know, it's
So,
a super simple way.
yeah, can you share an example of
Mhm.
one of these loops that you picked apart for yourself? Because you mentioned it's in the
Yeah.
specifics for each person. Just show us maybe one
Yeah.
of yours.
Yeah, let me think of a solid one that I was thinking of. It's even like the dynamic of dressing, right? And so, I mean, that one was huge for me because I love fashion. I grew up,
Mm,
I got my first, I was already reading Vogues when I was like 10 or 11 because I
yeah.
loved the fashion and photography. Oh, obsessed. And then at 13, I was getting the international one. So it's when I say it's important for me to dress the way I would love, I mean it's important
This
to
is a
me.
deep part of your
Yeah.
identity right here.
It's
Yes.
like it feeds my soul. And so it was actually a real struggle. I would be comparing myself for this one individual who would be wearing these suits all the time. And I knew that she worked with businesses and I knew that she did like sales training with businesses and she's constantly in suits and stuff. And I just remember breaking down on the phone one time and being like, I don't want to wear suits. I don't want to wear what she's wearing. If I wear a suit, I'll wear a suit, but I can't afford the suit I want right now. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And I just cried and I was like, I just want to like, where would I love to wear? It was so funny. And so in that moment, it was twofold. There was some personal development to do, which I'll dive into, but there was also like the reality of the situation where someone said, they're like, well, you're making the assumption that everyone wears suits like that in the businesses they go. And he's like, what about the businesses you worked in? And I looked and I was like, huh, I've been in the fashion industry a lot. And technically, like, they would hate if I wore something like that. Like, they would see something like that and it wouldn't be a sign of empowerment to them. Like, they would just look at
Yeah.
it and be like, why are you dressed that way? Like, when you can
Yeah,
dress so many different
she
ways.
bought that off the rack and it's really not
Yeah.
inspired. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's one big component is the industry. And funny enough, like I love the construction industry and I do a lot of work with construction companies and stuff, but they also tend to be very out there and very avant-garde. And they like when I dress that way. Like they don't want like the superpower suit girl. Like they don't want it. They already have a very masculine energy within the company. And so coming in with that very feminine role also fits there. And so I started to realize like I just had this misperception that every company was going to be the same and every company needed me to look this way. And it was like, no, I'm actually going to just work on attracting the individuals and the companies that more resonate with me. And truth be told, like the really professional companies, they're probably not going to resonate with me anyways. I'm from Southern California. I'm an LA girl. I'm a Valley girl. If anyone's heard the Frank Zappa song Valley Girl, listen to it
Oh,
after this.
totally.
Yeah, you're gonna laugh because I say totally, I say like, I say for sure. I am a Valley girl, not to that extreme, but it's stuck. And so I'm not gonna attract the super professional person that needs me to be, perfect grammar and perfect English. I'm the LA like
Yeah,
beach yogi.
you're
Like
not
it is what
the
it is,
Bear
man.
Stearns kind of consultant.
Oh.
Yes.
No, will I go in there and you'll get me tough? I'll still be tough. Like I'm tough. We're gonna get to the other side. We're gonna get work done, and I push hard. And sometimes I yell at you if you're off and we're not getting to where we want to go. I'm all those things, but I'm still gonna do it in my way. And so I started to realize, like, I'm just making something bigger than it was. Then the other dynamic too is I did a bunch of personal development work just around the way that I was dressing because I had this perception too that it wasn't professional. And so I would go and look and I'm like, okay, well, how would it actually serve the individuals that I'm working with to dress this way? Like, how would it be helpful as opposed to trying to dumb it down and do something that I think I'm supposed to do? Like, how would it be helpful to actually do what I'm inspired to do? And when I started to actually look at those answers, I realized I hadn't seen the other side of that question. Again, my misperception was I was only seeing one side of the situation. When I started to see the other side, I realized that both work and I could kind of do what I wanted to do in those moments. And so it's really helpful. It's like really important for us to reflect. There's going to be a moment when we reflect of the external reality that we're misperceiving things in such a way you could get some actual factual evidence about the world very quickly to shift that perception. And then there's also the other part where it's like we go a little bit deeper and a little bit more internal and we see like, well, what am I not seeing here? What's the other side that I'm assuming isn't true? And how could I find some truth there until I just see that both sides exist and it doesn't have to be one or the other. This person who wears the power suits exists and I exist in my dresses and both of us fit the world perfectly as we are. It doesn't need to be one or the other. And so when we can ask that question and balance out our mind, then we just move forward in the way we would love to instead of how we have to or should or need to.
Yeah,
Mm.
should is one of these words I just want to flush out of my
Yes.
vocabulary. When should shows up, it's like, okay, what is the unwritten rule I'm following here?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's like, where did I get this?
Yeah, does
Mhm.
it even really apply anymore?
Yeah.
So, what does the role of self-perception play in how women rise or stall when they're moving into executive and founder roles?
Yeah, so especially when we're moving up. So self-perception overall, this is actually for anyone. We'll start with anyone first because everyone tackles this one, is we get really nervous, we get really uncomfortable, and it's almost like we have this unrealistic expectation to move into this new role and just be perfectly fit for it. When we
Yes.
forget that
It's
it's
going to
still,
feel like coming
yeah.
home. Yes.
No, it's not. It's gonna be like chaos. It takes a while for it to feel like coming home. And even then, even that, it's like you feel like you have the position at a certain point and you're more grounded in it, but you're still tackling all these challenges. So it's like not to put that unrealistic expectation on yourself that you're gonna feel like you're coming home immediately. You're gonna be uncomfortable in the beginning. There's gonna be changes. You're going to step into a new form of leadership you haven't been in before. I think one thing that's been really interesting, like I've been working with this individual, he actually started out as a salesperson within the company, and now he's one of the lead executives, right? So he's the cream of the crop, right under the owners now. And one of the biggest challenges he had, it was changing the role and the way the company viewed him as like buddy employee friend to the individual that they're actually listening to, taking advice from, like they have to follow his rules, like all these different dynamics.
Yeah.
And so it's finding that balance because truth be told, some of these people really are your friends. And so it's finding that balance in between, like moving from the employee that's connecting with them in this way to the leader that's leading them in a different way. So that's a huge thing for every person and not to think that that's a straight line. That's going to be zigzag all the way. It's going to take you time. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I remember my first like actual supervisory role when I was in corporate. I'd been pulled out of data center operations. I was an operator. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're the shift manager, and I'm managing people who are at the end of their career, have children that are older than I am. It can be a challenging moment when that sort of thing happens.
It can.
So how do you start to manage and shift your self-perception to grow into that role when
Yeah.
you're stretching this way?
Well, the thing about us people is the seer, the seeing, and the seen are the same. So anything that you see in someone on the outside, you have on the inside, you just may have been doing it in a different form, right? So, for example, if I look at the individual who's maybe the employee and moving up into a management position, and we can sit there and make the assumption that they've never done that before, so it's new to them. But the truth is that you've been doing all the things that the requires of a manager but in your own form, right? Like maybe at home, like you run the Girl Scouts troop or the Boy Scout troop or something. Like, I don't know. I laugh because there's one of my clients, I call her the CEO of the house. I was
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, there is something to be said
100%.
for that, right?
Yeah. And like everything that she manages and with the kids and the school and they do homeschooling and stuff, she's transitioning into her own business. I was like, oh, you got nothing to worry about. And we went
Yeah.
through it all. Yeah. I was like, how am I going to do this? I've never done it. And I was like, let me show you.
How
Um,
you're already doing
yeah, how
this.
you're already doing it. So we
I
went through,
love this. We're
it was
up on our
amazing.
we're up on
Oh,
our
yeah.
first break already. I want to
Oh,
finish this
yeah.
topic when we come back because I think there's a lot more we can unpack on how we're already probably doing much of what we need to make this happen. I'd like to invite you, dear listener, grab your pen, grab your piece of paper over the break here and spend a little time around what your self perception has been telling you. If you've been stretching into a new role, what are the messages your internal voice has been giving you that perhaps need a little time for you to reflect on and gather some external data and question some of those shoulds and the hidden rules that are behind those. Gather that all in a pile and hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, check the loud, but we'll hear. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No, no fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I'm back with the amazing and wonderful Carly Pepin. And before I so abruptly cut you off because we had to go to break, you were sharing with us how you were helping a soon to be founder move from
Yes.
CEO mom to actual CEO mode. So go ahead and pick that story back up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just went through and we identified all the things that she perceived she was lacking, right? So it's the dynamic of being able to do sales, being able to manage individuals, being able to manage like her time so she could have some free time but still have the company. And it was interesting because as we go through each thing, like we would go through even the financial component, right? And we would go through each thing and we would see where she's doing it now, right? In her own form.
Yes,
Yeah, and
if you can
it's
convince a
amazing.
three-year-old to go to bed on time, you can sell
Honestly,
anything.
honestly. Also, this particular one, he's actually a really good kid, but he's very grounded in who he is. And
Mm.
so, good kids who are grounded in who they are
Wait,
definitely
way to
negotiate
say
more.
stubborn and persistent.
He's stubborn and persistent to basically live in a life that he's inspired by. She's got constant negotiations going on left and right, which is kind of amazing, which sometimes she succeeds to because she's like, yeah, that is really a great point. Like, yeah, you win on this one, right? So,
Well, and
um,
sometimes they do have a point.
sometimes he has a point. So it's like the mentorship, right? So she's mentoring someone, she's helping him get to the other side. She's managing the day-to-day of the schedule with him and all the other individuals who actually like help out at the house and also the schedule of now him like going to school, his private studying, his private tutoring. She's doing all these things that she's juggling and it's very meticulously done, so much so that you could walk into that environment and you would just think that it's just running like normal and that she's not doing that much, right?
Yeah.
Because she's done it so well. That's a business when you strategize and systemize and put together a business to such a degree that you can walk in and it looks like everyone's just doing their job and not much is going on the back end, that means you've done a great job setting it up because it's a lot of work,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
so,
And the systems
yeah.
have been worked out. Yeah.
And all the kinks have been worked out. And it's amazing because it's like when you look at all of what went in for her to get all of that where her life was today, and then also even where her son is today, because it is not easy to raise a kid who is, I mean, the kid already knows at 7 years old, I was talking to him about what he wants to do for the rest of his life. He already knows, right? And he's already on track and on path. That's not easy. That's really hard. And so
Yeah.
all of this stuff she's managing, like when we broke it down and all the work and everything that went in behind it and how she spent her day and like how she does it now, it's like, so you did it. So you started in the dirt, just like an entrepreneur. You were doing all the things, and then you started to focus on the things that matter. You learned how to delegate. You're managing employees, you're managing individuals, and you look at it, and I told her, I said, you're not doing anything new. You're just changing the form of it. That's all you're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah, and so
Yeah,
it's real.
into an
Yeah.
environment where you get paid more for doing it.
for sure.
You'll
And
actually get paid for
getting
doing
paid
it.
in a different way. Yeah. She gets paid by her lovely husband. He's awesome. He really appreciates her. But yeah, she's going to get paid in a different way now. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing when you're moving up on the scale. So when you're like employee or manager or an executive and you keep going up, right? And every single time, if there's something that you think you haven't done before, go look at where you do it, not even in just your professional life, but your personal life too. And you realize that you already have mastery of this skill. And the only thing that you're doing is you're just applying it to this new form. So you'll still be working out some kinks, but it gives you that certainty that you technically do belong where you're going. Like you've got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you went through that with us because I don't know about the listeners, but it actually shook some appreciation for my own self free within myself
Yeah.
because my husband and I were serial relocators. We've lived all over the country. And that's something that I do remarkably well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of moving balls. You've got to keep systems going when the support for those systems is falling away before the new supports arrived. And it's like, wow, okay, I am pretty awesome. Thank you.
It's actually true. We discount those parts of ourselves, because I might not be as bad as you, but on average, I'm about once a year. I've been where I've been for like a couple years, but the average turns out usually once a year I move. And then people be like, moving so hard. And I'm like, I think about it and I'm like, it's not because I have a system now, but
Yeah,
before, yeah, when I didn't have it systematized and structured, like, and it wasn't organized in a certain way, yeah, it was a nightmare. And
yeah.
you forget in every area of life, like we're all doing these things and we're mastering things like that other people haven't tapped into, that is someone else's nightmare. And when you go and you kind of look, you realize you're not that far behind. You've just been focused on other things because they were more important for you that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. I love that. That's amazing. So I appreciate the insight that you gave me into my own self and that little
Yeah,
bit
I'm glad
of
you saw
extra
that.
self-appreciation. I hope other listeners got some of that as well. So as we're building things out
Mhm.
and moving into new areas, there can be some real pressure to prove ourselves. And I know women are especially susceptible to this because we tend to acquire lots of letters behind our names as part of
Mhm.
proving that we're good enough. How do we navigate this without like shoving
Yeah.
ourselves into burnout or trying to become something we're not?
Yeah, so if we're trying to prove ourselves to an individual or individuals, we've already put them on a pedestal. So we already have this like level of infatuation, admiration that's off balance because you no longer see this person as your equal. Because if you knew they were your equal, what do you have to prove? Like nothing. Like you have certainty in who you are. So it kind of goes back to a little bit what we talked about before, where whatever you see inside this person, you perceive you don't have. And if you go through and actually look, like, what do I think they have that I don't? Like, you'll go and you'll say, like, hey, I actually have that, but I have that in this form. I have that in this form. And then you always some realize, like, they're equal, right? And it's interesting because you could even do this with wealth, right? Because some people have like great wealth and some people don't. And it's not because one person's better than the other, just because that person actually values it more. So they focus on it more, right? But you have things where if I put a dollar amount on it, I guarantee you some of those things in your life are priceless, right? And that
Yeah,
individual doesn't have those things because they're not priceless to them. The actual finances was priceless to them. And so we sit here and we judge ourselves thinking that someone is better because they maybe have more or appear different without looking at how we've created it in our form. And when we do
right.
that, we have that appreciation for ourselves. And then again, it's like, what do you have to prove? And I love it because it takes away the what do I have to prove to I just want to get to work,
Yeah, let's
And then
just do the thing.
yeah, let's just do the thing that is like meant to do in this like position and job. And the coolest thing about that is then you wind up proving yourself anyways, but not in like the form that you thought you needed to, but it was like the form of just like, oh, I did a good job, I accomplished this, like things got done, like that was actually the greatest form of
Yeah.
accomplishment you could have had in that position
and and
anyways. We just
and
get off
you
track.
and you land
Yeah.
respect that goes with the
Yes.
competence, whereas when you try to prove yourself other ways, you tend to undermine yourself in some ways while you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we can tell as humans when someone's trying to put on a show, right? Like we
Yeah.
can tell and we're like, this feels, we don't say inauthentic, but sometimes we'll be like, that was kind of weird. Is anyone like, was that kind of weird what they were saying? Like, do you think that was true? And we
Yeah, this
kind of
feels a little
have,
icky. Yeah.
yeah, our BS meter, our internal BS meter goes off and we feel it with other people. And so it's like, trust me, other people feel it with us too. And so that's why it's easier. It's like, get that certainty in yourself, get that self-confidence. And then it's like, just give yourself permission to just do the work and show that you are competent. And that's, yeah, the best form of technically proving yourself. But then you're just also just doing the work that you love, which is
Yeah, you're
great.
just showing up
Yeah,
and doing what you're good at.
you. Yeah.
So, what as women do we need to
Mm.
unlearn in order to lead more effectively?
Yeah, I think that we need to be different, but also that we are so different. So there's two components that kind of conflict with each other, where we have this idea that we are so different from men that like it's hard, right? But the reality is we are very similar. We have the same behaviors and same characteristics. It just depends on what comes out and when, right? So I could be really calm and cool and collected, and I could have that feminine energy, and that could be fine. But man, if you challenge me, and depending on what you're challenging me on and how hard it is, if you come at me super hard, I come super hard. And all of a sudden, I have that same masculine energy. Like I'm not missing anything inside me. It only gets pulled out when that challenge comes. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's like, whoo, here she is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like that dynamic. We're not as different as we think, but also we are in a sense as well. And to make sure it's not even like celebrating our differences because we're proud, but like understanding that that's a form of our empowerment, right? So it's understanding that we can be at that same level as a man. We have all those things that the man has inside him. Nothing's missing. Just like we went through all the other things, you could go through all the things a man has and see where you have it in your own form. And it's quite interesting because you're like, oh, it comes out there and it comes out there. I get it. I was like, I'm totally that. But then the other dynamic is there are genuinely some differences as well. And it's like, well, how is that actually giving me an edge? Right? Because sometimes we think it's not giving it an edge and it's something that makes us weak, but it's like, how does that give us an edge and how does that make us strong? You know, and
Yeah.
it's like, what can we do to utilize that to help us to get to that next level, to that next step? So if you're only seeing it as a weakness and not also seeing the strengths that it provides, you're not able to utilize it wisely. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't have its weaknesses, but it also means, I mean, this is like marketing. It's like know your niche, right? And when I
Right.
look at the weaknesses that it has, it's like, well, where does that not work? You know, why even try? Like, if I do business consulting, it's like, why would I even try? I'm not going to try. I was just talking to someone recently, and it was very clear that in their perception, like the feminine sort of dynamic and all this with me was like a weakness, and just kept talking about my husband. And I was like, I'm not even gonna try with like, what's the
Yeah.
point, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm not even going to work to
Know
overcome
your
that.
audience, man.
Exactly. You are
Yeah.
not my ideal client.
No.
Thank you
Also,
for your
because like
time.
this is part of what we think we like unlearn that that person needs to understand what like I'm telling you right now.
There you go.
You don't have to waste your time, your energy.
Don't
When you
bang your head
understand,
on that
don't
wall.
bang your head
Yeah.
on the wall, just walk away. Because there's half the world is gonna be able to understand and appreciate it, half the world is not. And it's like, okay, then I'm not gonna spend that much energy there. But then I did find like an individual who, yeah, very just different and just very engaged and just understood and listened and treated me like an equal dynamic. And I was like, let's talk, right? And
Yeah.
so in that, they see it as a strength, right? So it's really important to understand that yes, it will be a weakness in some areas. And because that you have that weakness, it's not saying it's a bad thing, but again, it's refining and being like, well, that just doesn't work for me. And where you have the strength, it's like, okay, well, this works for me. And that's how you refine just how you're showing up on a day-to-day basis. Because we can't expect the world to change to see what we see. It's like
Yeah.
that's an unrealistic expectation. There's 8 billion people on the planet. But if you can just change it and not be upset if someone has that and realize like it also serves you, you know, like
Yeah.
it's fine.
I
Like
love
I'll just,
that.
yeah, we'll
You
just move
know,
on.
I talk to a lot of different women here who've been in a
Mhm.
lot of different male-dominated industries. And I know there's kind of this thought that it's like, well, construction would be hard, or trucking would be hard,
Yeah.
or, what, fill in the blank, male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
And what I've found through all of these conversations is perhaps there are large numbers of companies and people with those attitudes in those industries, but there are also large numbers of people who don't have that attitude in these industries. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So, in some ways, it's an advantage that it's out there and so clearly obvious, as
Yes.
opposed to being dressed up in diversity clothes. Oh, we're diverse over here, and you're like the only woman, and they expect
Yeah.
you to change the locker room environment. It's like, yeah, no,
I don't want to do
no.
that. Yeah.
So, in some ways, I think it's an advantage when you're in an industry that just kind of puts it out there. Here's where we're at, and then you know
Yes.
what you're dealing with. I
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think as you're saying that too, because one of the things that is probably my favorite is the amount of times I've been underestimated. And I actually love it. And I think people don't realize like how helpful it is because I see all these individuals and the ones who aren't underestimated, right? And they're just honestly like left and right. Like I see the challenges they go through and everyone's like competing with them. And it's crazy. It's like crazy in the world to see it. And I've been underestimated so many times in like all these different kind of groups I've been involved in. And when I take like these courses and I learn something, nobody pays attention to me. Like they just think like, this is Carly. She's just who she is. She's not as good as me. And I'm like, you think what you want to think. Nobody bothers me. Like, it's kind of great.
I
So
can
on the,
really focus and then I
I
can go
just
smoke your
focus.
ass afterwards.
I know. And then I do. And then I get like a call later and it's like, hey, you're doing well in business. Can we do some like, do you want to connect? And it's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm totally good. But thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Like, I got some podcasts on that. I got some stuff out there. Like you get it there. So I think too is like, remember when you're being underestimated, especially even in the workforce, it's happened to me in another. This, I'll tell you a funny story because it happened to me in a company that I worked out too. But basically, on the back end, you can silently just do what you love to do, what you're great at, and you can make progress while someone else is just thinking that like you're nothing and you're not important, right? And
Yeah,
then
you're below
you're
the
nothing.
radar, which
You're below the
actually
radar. It's the
helps you.
best.
You're not seen as competition.
And then all of a sudden you're above the radar and they're like, what happened? And it's
Where'd
like,
you come
well,
from?
nobody bothered me. So yeah, being underestimated is a great tool because it really does. It keeps you below the radar. You really get to focus, have fun. Often with women, we may get that sometimes a little bit more than men, especially in male-dominated industries. So if you're feeling that, enjoy it, use it to your advantage, and just stay under that radar and do what you love and do it well and just get ahead while nobody's paying attention. It's really helpful.
I love that. We are up on our second break already. Can you believe? What do you think our homework should be over this break, Carly?
I think definitely starting to identify the things that you perceive you're missing and things that you want to do as a leader and executive, and starting to write all those things down so you can start to identify them in yourself in your own form. That would be really, really
Yeah,
inspiring. Mhm.
start gathering some data around that. I like
Yeah.
that. All right, hang with us through the break and we'll be right back.
Oh, checked it loud, but we're here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am back with the amazing and wonderful Carly Pepin. And so before the break, we scraped together, or we started scraping together some of the things that we think we're lacking that we're going to go find evidence for the fact that we are not lacking in. And you were talking about the strength of being underestimated and using that to your advantage. What are other hidden strengths that women bring to executive teams that are often undervalued but turn out to be very effective and highly valuable?
Yeah, I think one thing that we really discount is like we do have different hormones, right? And part of our hormonal balance as females does make us more mothering, more nurturing, more this dynamic. And what you'll see in the roles that that plays out is all of a sudden like conflict management, right? It's conflict management, it's team engagement dynamics. It's really cool. So the people and the culture can be really impacted by that type of energy, which genuinely comes from like our scientific background of our hormones, right? Like we
Yes.
we have the hormones to provide that. It's awesome. So that's one of our strengths that make us a little bit different that we can really use to our advantage. And also, we have different like reasoning abilities as well. I don't know if you know this, but like statistically, even women as day traders were far better than men because men are not able to balance the highs and lows to the same degree as women, which again, we're also built to set up to manage those highs and lows, like scientifically. I think the book was The Chemistry of Sex. It's really fun though, but it talks about basically our sexes, right? Like
Right.
who we are on the back end. But part of us as women is we have these different things that turn on and off inside us, and we're able to manage these highs and lows to a greater degree so that we can actually manage like raising children. And scientifically, we've been built that way. And so that's why I think it's just so fun. Like science shows us and statistics that we're better at managing highs and lows and day trading, even. So we can manage a big high and a receive and a big low and loss better than men can, which is amazing,
Isn't
right?
that interesting? Because
I
the
know.
myth is that women are unstable and you wouldn't want them in high pressure situations.
Yeah. Hey, once a month on our cycle does not count.
It's the other 28 days.
I know. It's like a couple days we have a little bit of emotional imbalance, but give us a break. Our hormones are off the charts. No, I laugh about that too, but it is true. And sometimes, guys, even that part of ourselves that I've noticed that whenever I have that, it's definitely the perfect time for me to be a little bit tougher with a client. And it's perfect that you got me today because I'm a little tougher today. And so
Exactly,
this is
because you
great.
needed some tough love today, and so we bring
You
in it.
needed. Yeah, we bring it. And so it's that dynamic too. But yeah, like understanding like how that plays out in the workforce and even seeing like where does your femininity, where does the female side come forward in your workforce? Again, looking how it's specifically playing out for you. And it may be a bigger role than you actually even understood. I was talking to someone. They've been in this company for like 15, 20 years, and technically they're like an office manager and stuff. But when I got into it, I was like, you sound like HR. And they laughed, and I was like, you realize you're going around, you're talking to all these different people. Technically, they have an HR person, but you're the one managing the conflicts. You're on the back end talking. I saw them in their environment and how everyone came together, and it was like a community and what they did. And I was like, you're amazing and you don't even see it. Like, this is your genius and this is what you love to do. But it was also that feminine part of the individual of her that was playing this role at home as well with the family. And she just had naturally brought it into work, discounting that it was something that was a part of her from being a woman. So it's kind of seeing is like, where are you bringing that role into work? How is it actually playing out? And how can you continue to utilize that as one of your like kind of hidden genius skills that you haven't even acknowledged and recognized?
Yeah, exactly, because there's a huge payoff to that sort of
Yeah,
community and team cohesion and the ability to resolve conflict and keep people from turnover and all that kind of stuff. It comes down to real bottom line numbers.
for sure. And I think another skill, it's like we're women are great with people too. Like I know some men are too. I'm not going to discount that, but like women, even that dynamic, I see this in the coaching world a lot because I do the business coaching, but I do the executive coaching and I work with people one to one. And sometimes they've gone through major trauma. So I have training, like significant training to be able to help them get through that because you can't work. Like you can't work. But the biggest difference, yeah, you just can't work when you go. Sometimes people are in shock and it's like, I can't do anything. Let's get you through this, get you out of bed. But the difference that I've noticed too is like between men and women is men tend to push harder and are tougher, right? Where if I have someone who's gone through extreme trauma, like I understand how to speak with them a little bit differently. I get really soft. I get a different connection. I almost become like a mom in those moments until they start to shift. And then we can almost normalize even my voice, right? Like my voice will change. You hear my voice change and my tone change with certain people because I understand and can like read into that. And it's different with men because again, they're literally not scientifically, physically built like in that specific
To do
way
that sort
to
of
do the
connecting. Yeah.
mothering, connecting. And while some of them definitely can get a certain component and part of it too, is just remember like that's one of our strengths that we're naturally built with. Like we have that. Like we're meant to be moms. Like we're all built for that. And it's like using that skill, like how is it helping you in the business? How is it helping you as a leader? And how can you continue to expand on that? Because it is different. It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times being feminine is confused with being weak, and being mothering is confused with being soft or a pushover. But
Yeah.
I don't see that direct connection myself, because I don't know about your mother.
She's a powerhouse.
Yeah, mine's
She's super
tough.
powerhouse. She's like soft and sweet, and then also like, yeah, get your shit together. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah, exactly.
She's amazing.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about how your work is coming out into the world today. Did you bring a gift with you? How can the listeners engage with more of you if they
Mhm.
need more Carly Pepin in their lives?
Yeah. Okay. So my work comes out in the world is I do a lot of business to business stuff now where I get to work with the leadership teams, the founder and the owner. And what we'll do is we'll go in and we kind of work on business from the inside out, right? So we get to do a lot of the inner work. When I'm working with companies, I don't like to work with companies that aren't into personal development for their employees and themselves because it's just I love it too much and I think it's too much of a value. So we go in and we do a lot of this leadership and internal work with the group as a whole, like understanding themselves, understanding each other, and kind of doing some of the things that we talked about today on the inner side. But then on the external side, we're also focusing, like I said, sometimes I look at a business and someone's really stressed about something and it's like, this is just like logistics. This is a system. This is a different strategy. Let's
Yeah.
just go in and like all this chaos. We don't need to work on your stress. We just want to fix this
We
part
need
right
to fix the
here.
system, and your
This is the
stress will
system.
resolve itself. Yes.
Totally. And then we'll see if there's any other stress, but this stress it can be fixed very practically. So I like to do the balance of the practical application to make sure that basically when we're stressed about stuff, let's stress about things that are more important and not waste our time on these little things that can be solved. So we do a lot of that dynamic. And I am working with the leadership team only. Sometimes I'll go in and do workshops with the whole company if they want employees to get on board in a different way, but there's really like hands-on management with like leadership and executives and stuff. So that one's really fun. And we'll do one-on-one coaching sometimes. Sometimes depends if, yeah, it depends. Sometimes the owners pay for it, which is super cool. And I'm like, you guys love personal development.
You
I'm like, you
guys are
guys
the
are awesome.
best. You're my
I know. I was
peeps.
like, I love you. I love you guys for doing all this. And then, yeah, so that's really fun. And so something that I can offer as well is just there's a questionnaire that I have on my page to understand your own core values, your own, like who you are to a greater degree, which is actually like another hidden gift, right? Because every person has something that's uniquely important to them. And it's really cool because when you understand that, you can understand more of what your unique genius is. And this questionnaire really helps you pull that out. So that's the values assessment. So that one's really inspiring. And
All right.
it's
And
cool. Yeah.
we'll have a link to that in the show notes. So
Yeah.
if you're going, where do I find it? In the show notes. That's the answer.
Yeah. So that one's a really inspiring one. I think everyone will like it based on what we shared today.
Yeah, I think that'll
Mm.
be a fabulous insight, because we all have our own unique music that we're bringing to this whole effort. And I think it's important to identify and really own your own stuff instead of going, well, I wish I sounded like a cello or a flute or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Be you. If you are bold and brassy, be bold and brassy. That's what you're here for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. In the last few minutes of the show, what would be kind of your umbrella words of advice to the
Mhm.
listeners who've joined us here today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna just spin off of what you were sharing too, because this whole conversation isn't just about empowering yourself as a woman, it's also empowering yourself to be the authentic woman you are and realizing nothing's missing inside you. Everything you see on the outside, you have inside. Give yourself the opportunity to create that certainty in yourself and really go out and build that life in the way that you would love. And because I know if you're listening to this, like work is important to you. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast with you in particular if like work wasn't important. And so part of that is being authentic enough to make sure that you're even on the right path in work. Because if it's that important, that means you really love it. And you're one of the lucky ones who gets to wake up every day and love what you do and do what you love. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that inner work makes that just even 10 times more special. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for coming and sharing it with us today, Carly. It's been a real pleasure and a joy to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you, dear listener, for investing your time here with us today. I know there are a lot of different places that you could be called to invest your time. And I like to make sure that the time you invest with me is time that gets invested in yourself. So do me a favor, drop me a comment below the show or shoot me an email to Zofia, Zofia, at steminstilettos.com and let me know what you liked, what you hated, who I should talk to, if there are more topics I should be taking on, or if I need to change my hair. I don't care. Whatever it is, talk to me and let me know because I do this show for you and I want it to serve you in the highest and best way that it can. And until next week, go out, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.